Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Office Hours. It must be Tuesday because we're all here together. Welcome, Ryan and Scott.
Yeah,
hello.
Excited to be here.
It is
Excited
Tuesday.
to be here as well. We're in February now. I guess we were in February last week too, huh?
We were, yes.
Man.
Yes, we were.
It's okay. Everything's a blur now. I don't know.
I know, but we're already more than 1/12 done with the year. 1/12. That's like what, 8%? 8.5%?
Yeah.
Something like that.
There's actually a Twitter account that I follow that is it just counts down the percentage of the year, or counts up the percentage of the year. And so every day they just post one tweet that is how much of the year is gone with like a little bar chart.
That's exciting.
It's super exciting because, like, honestly, we're gonna blink and it's gonna be July, and we still won't have gone anywhere or done anything interesting.
Yeah, I understand that actually begins to happen more and more as you age. From what I understand,
Ooh.
as one gets older, the time does get.
Is he
I
calling
feel like
you
that
old,
was a
Jeff?
tweet, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Actually, I was talking about myself. I'm time is going too fast now. If it wasn't for office hours, I wouldn't know it was Tuesday. I'd be pretty sure it was last Thursday. I'm pretty sure it's always last Thursday.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. No, I'm taking age comments more sensitively lately. My wife said, like my hair's been graying since I was in my early 30s. But my wife said something the other day, which is like, there used to be a lot more color mixed into the gray, and now there's not so much color anymore. It's just it's still brownish, but there's a lot of gray in there. I think my dad was like full white head of hair by 50 though. So we'll see what comes.
I think it's fine. I have a bunch of gray in my beard now. Like it didn't used to be there. When I was a kid, I had the of course it was the late 90s, early 2000s. So I had the highly coveted, naturally occurring blonde goatee. Ooh. So it was, you remember that time when we were all getting blonde tips in our hair? And
well, I wouldn't say we all were, but I know
lots of people were, though.
It was, people were listening to Limp Bizkit and watching CSI.
I grew up in the era. So I was born in the mid 70s. Grew up like a lot of my youth was late 80s and 90s, and I remember then that even then it didn't look great, but it was the wispy blonde mustache. That just always had a very shady look to it. Like you were just a questionable character.
Yes.
The wispy blonde mustache. Right.
Yes,
sorry, I was distracted by my dog asking for a treat for his son. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
How can we talk about that? How's that going?
Fine.
Yours is going fine. How's Ryan's going?
Mine. So the battery wore out on the treat button, so she still pushes it, but it doesn't say treat all the time. I had to replace the batteries. We had guests over. The hardest part is getting my kids to like not play with the buttons and like confuse the dogs. I'm getting ready to introduce the second button. We had guests all last week, and so I didn't want to. I need to spend time to introduce another button, but one of my dogs has mastered that. She'll just go over and just hit it with her paw. The other one is like terrified of the button.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, Moose doesn't do it either. She's like too old and too like good for the button. She's a Great Dane, so like naturally everything, of course, she does.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, she doesn't. She prefers for my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have one dog just over there like pushing the button like constantly, and the other dog's like terrified of it. So I don't know.
Funny.
We'll see.
Mine won't leave them alone.
Well, I don't know how it's possible, but we're 4 minutes into this and we don't have a single question yet. But I do want to thank everybody for joining. We've got Habuma and Phelps Inc., Gavin Watson, Daniel Johnson. He made a comment, which is !slots 23. I don't know that either of you have the history for this, but for most of 2020 and a good portion of 2021, I was doing a bunch of live streaming on my own channel, and I was building a casino, like an Alexa casino. But as a part of that, I was building one unified code base that would run a chatbot, an Alexa, and a bunch of other stuff. And so
very nice.
As a result of that, I built a chatbot that played right into my Twitch chat. And so people could type things like exclamation point slots 23, and it would spin a slot machine for them and wager 23 of their fake coins. And it actually kept track of their balance and all that stuff. And so I haven't seen that in quite a while in the chat. So Daniel Johnson, thank you for reminding me of the chatbot that we ran for so long. It was a good time. Probably should bring that back at some point. We've got startup here. Don, good morning from YouTube. Brian Tarbuck says, now at 12 days for my addition of ISP to my skill, I'm expecting a couple of rejections since this is my first ISP skill. I think that's reasonable. There is a large number of things in ISP skills that you need to consider. There's so many different responses and requests and things that need to happen, and that you need to be able to predict, right? I mean, just in a buy situation, you create a buy dialogue, and then all of a sudden they can say yes or no there. But if they say yes, then it takes them to the actual purchase process, and then they can say yes or no there. And each one of those returns a different kind of response back to your skill, and you need to be able to handle all of those uniquely. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you did a thorough job, Brian, and I hope that it works out well for you. But ISPs are tricky, and I feel like we probably need to write a better guide for understanding all of those little nuances. I had a nice flow chart that kind of explained all of it once, but I don't even know where that is anymore.
That's actually one of the things I'm targeting to build a workshop for this year is monetization, and ISPs being one of them.
Nice.
So,
That'll be awesome.
Yes.
So Brian, I hope things go well for you. We will see. Blurst Monkey says, aha, I found all the cool kids. They must be in the chat. They must be in the chat. I don't know where the cool kids are, but that's awesome. Evan Watson says, I must remember to turn off all my Alexa devices before I tune in on Tuesdays. Yeah, it's always a good advice. All of my devices behind me here, they all have the red line or red circle on them or whatever. So got to mute. Got to do it. Don wants to know if I had to use account linking for that skill. Oh, I think he's talking to Brian. Well,
maybe it's the slot.
I don't know if he's talking about my slot machine one or if he's talking about Brian's ISP skill.
Brian's on Twitch and Don's on YouTube, so I'm guessing
probably
slots.
For my slot machine skill, which I never published for a variety of reasons, I never used account linking. I'm actually using a poor man's account linking solution for the thing that I'm going to build here in the future. Not because I necessarily want to avoid account linking, but because it's a lot of extra lift. And so the process that I'm going through right now actually allows me to take advantage of a nice database of words that the gentleman over at Wordle created. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to build separate skills for each of the games, right? There'll be a slot machine game or skill. There'll be a craps skill. There'll be a roulette skill. There'll be a video poker skill. And so you'll be able to play across all of those skills, and you'll be able to bring your account with you to all of the different skills. And the way that I'm going to do that is by giving you a 3-word phrase, 3 random words out of the entire collection of Wordle solutions, which is like 2,700 words. And so 2,700 times 2,699 times 2,698 is a lot of potential variation. And so you will be presented with 3 words, and then you can go to any of those skills and say, oh, I want to link my account. Okay, what's your 3 words? You say your 3 words, and boom, now those accounts recognize you as being the same person. So that is a very low budget solution to this, but it doesn't require me to build all the infrastructure for account linking. All right. Trey Last says, hey all. Daniel Johnson is locked in Australia. He was on Twitch. His username is locked in AUS. If you guys see over there. Brian Tarbox says, once it gets passed, I'll write it up, especially ISP on show devices. So that's cool.
Share that on Slack, Brian. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So Don was asking about my slot skill. Yeah. So I have not personally implemented account linking for any of my production skills. I just don't have the need for it, but I have played with account linking. I've set it up and gotten working with login with Amazon, but it's not something that I've used in any of my own skills. I just haven't had the need for it. Robert Table says, oh, it's that guy with all the dolls again. Yes. Do love dolls. Yes. Welcome, Robert. Good to see you. Do you, Ryan? Do you know the reference to Robert Tables?
That's Little Bobby Tables, right? From
Bobby
XKCD.
That's exactly right. What a fantastic comic! I can't tell you the number of times I've shared that comic with someone.
No, you talked about the good old days, like previously on separate office hours. You talked about the good old days of the internet where you could do everything, and like Little Bobby Tables was something you had to actually worry about. Now, hopefully, that's like the least of anyone's concerns.
You would hope so.
Security.
And it's funny. Oh, we have C Sharp Fritz here. Welcome, C Sharp Fritz. Oh, we just got raided, everyone. That's going to be good. We've got a bunch of people coming over, I think, from C Sharp Fritz's account, and we're going to get a whole bunch of people here. So welcome to all the newcomers that may be here. We are here talking about Alexa development. This is our office hour. So if you have any questions about how to get started or where to go from there, I would love to answer any of your questions. So thanks for the raid, Mr. C Sharp Fritz. I was going to share one more story. Oh yeah. So my friend, this is 15 years ago, probably more. He had a website that was gaming news, and like they were authoritative, like Xbox would invite them to their stuff. So they had a decent
legit
for gaming news, like video game releases and that kind of stuff. And we were sitting in a class. I don't remember what it was like learning some kind of advanced development class, but it was like a week-long class that our employer had sent us to. And as we were sitting there, I was like, "Hey man, is your website guarded against like SQL injection?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job about that." I was like, "All right." And so I went in and like, I don't know anything about his infrastructure. I didn't know his database names or anything. But I was able to get an error that gave me some information, like just plugging stuff into a login form. I was SQL injecting, trying to guess like names of tables and stuff. And I figured enough out. And just on a whim, I tried a thing and it was drop table news or something. And I actually executed the command against this database and the whole table was just gone. And
I was like such a jerk.
Well, I didn't think it was going to work.
Such a jerk.
And it did in fact work. And so he had a backup, so it was okay. But
yeah.
Man, that was, but it was a good warning to him. Like, hey, maybe you should be a little more cautious on scrubbing your inputs. But anyway, that the Robert Table story just reminded me of that. I was young. I was probably 27.
You are the reason why everything is so complex and hard to do now because of you.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep. No, I was just hardening his defenses. That's all. Okay.
Ethical hacking.
Naveed on LinkedIn says, "Why today my device doesn't respond when I call her until I unplugged and plugged in the power? Has AWS had any issues? I'm not aware of any issues today. I have heard rumors of things over the past few months of some challenges in different locations across the country, but nothing today. So I don't know why your device wouldn't respond.
Probably just needed to literally do that.
Yeah.
That is just a thing that needs to happen sometimes. Unplug it and plug it back in. I'm sorry. It's true. It just is. It's never going to not be.
Mine will go through like waves, like for 1, like, or 2 or 3 weeks, like mine was just having all kinds of connectivity issues and I had to unplug it and plug it back in. And then for like the last 6 months, I should knock on wood, it's been totally fine connecting every time. And then, it's a Wi-Fi device. Like they do that.
I mean, it's built with the lowest cost parts they can find. At least I would imagine it is, right? For as much as they sell those things, sometimes. So it feels like, there's got to be some things that might just need to be rebooted once in a while. But on the same token, like I've had some of these devices plugged in for well over a year, never rebooted them, never had to do anything. They have the newest update. They're running just fine. Everything seems great. So it could just be device to device too. I don't want to make it sound like all of our devices are cheap junk because they certainly are not. So Locked In, who was Daniel Johnson on LinkedIn, said, "Hey, it's been a while since I've come to one of these. What's the usual set agenda, or what's the best way to be of value and to get value?" That's a fantastic question that we haven't really been asked recently. So there's a couple of things I'd like to share. First, we kind of expanded what Office Hours has become in that about a year ago, we started a Slack community. So Locked In, I don't know if you've been there or not, but if you go to alexa.design/Slack, Office Hours is now happening 24/7 all the time. There's the order for everybody. And so if you want to go there and you have questions about like, how do I do this thing? Or tell me about this device, or why is my device not working until I reboot it? Those are fantastic places to ask those questions anytime, any day. But we hold these in-person office hours once a week because we still think it's an important opportunity, one, to like put a face with some names and be able to give you guys direct answers on your questions rather than waiting for someone to find your question in Slack. So that is that's the first piece. But I think as far as getting value out of this, it really is going to vary greatly depending on what you're trying to do. But I think that understanding the broader scope of everything that's going on in Alexa really only benefits you as a developer, because there's so many different pieces and parts, and some of them dabble very heavily in like machine learning and artificial intelligence, and other stuff is really just like nuts and bolts. How do I get through some JavaScript or some Python and solve some problems? So I think just paying attention, just absorbing is often very beneficial to folks. But as far as delivering value, I think that bringing your questions that, like the burning ones, like this is always set in the back of my head. Why does this work this way? Or why did you guys decide to do this? Or why does this thing happen? Or why does the SDK do this, right? Like trying to get a better understanding, more so than like, how do I do this thing? I personally like to think that our tech docs have done a pretty fantastic job of giving you the encyclopedia of how to do the thing. But a lot of times there's a why. Why do I do it this way? Or one that I hear quite frequently is when I use DynamoDB in an Alexa hosted skill, why can I only have one record per user? Well, we can start to unpack that and talk about why it is and why it isn't, and what benefit you get from that and how you can get around those restrictions. Like we can do all of that stuff. So if there are burning questions, whether they're whys or hows, that's what this is for, to answer your question. So hopefully that gives everybody some inspiration or some enthusiasm about what they should be talking about. You guys have anything to add to that?
It's amazing. Like I didn't come from tech. I kind of came from the service industry and went into tech. And it's amazing to me how much when I got here that Alexa really is based on just conversations. Like the greatest innovations that we have are just people coming up with cool ideas, and we all just are like, yeah, let's do that. And it's so these sessions are great for that. Like we have had some seriously cool ideas for skill ideas, just things that are people have questions and they're like, well, I kind of want to do this, and we have a big discussion about this whole thing, and we've designed the whole skill. So it's really cool. I like to talk about, these sessions are really good for just kind of getting ideas for Alexa out there, just kind of learning.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, like a lot of times, big tech companies can be giant black boxes where you submit contact us forms and tickets, and then maybe you get a response. And this is also to show, like, hey, there's humans working here. Like there are humans here, and a lot of times we don't have all the answers, but we can hopefully direct. And a lot of times, like what's happening right now is like people in the chat will go ahead and answer questions. Like I see Steph Sharp is here. Answering questions, and just seeing like the community come together. It's just another time for the community to get together and chat with each other. So
yep. Yeah, and speak for yourself. We're not all humans here, but that's good to know.
There are a lot though.
Yeah,
partial humans. So yeah,
yes.
I mean, just through our 3 camera portals, there's 5 dogs. Do we have 5 dogs between the 3 of us?
Yeah,
I have 2.
Currently, I have currently 3 right now. Murphy's brother is staying with us for a week.
Nice.
So yeah, I have another Saint Bernard in the house. He's humongous.
We may have to start bringing pets on camera. That may have to be a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yours are.
I could bring my bearded dragon too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got 2 cats also, and sometimes we have like 10 cats, depending on whether or not we're fostering or not.
I have 2 cats. They're upstairs, and they would never agree to be on camera. They're very sensitive about their public profile.
It's in their rider, no camera.
Yeah, they don't really. Yeah. Whatever, it's like there's no pictures, no social media. It's just whatever. I mean,
Robert Tables wanted to ask, this is a nice reference. The AWS Alexa certification was removed, thus it is rare and viewed as a Magic the Gathering Black Lotus card. It's a deep reference, but excellent. Did it move somewhere else? And of course, Stefania already answered. Yes, it was sunset. Alexa grows very quickly, so it's hard for a certification to keep up with something that's growing so rapidly. And that's absolutely the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
I still wonder why she's not here on camera with us, but
yeah, I think the last time we had that certification, I think the people that were just getting done with their certification, as they were getting their certificates, like we had just rolled out a whole like 3 or 4 new features that were not covered, and so it's like, okay.
I was actually really thankful. I took the exam. Yeah. I took the exam right before the APL content was added, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm glad I dodged that," because that APL is as big as the rest of Alexa.
Yeah, it's I can't remember when the last thing was added, but yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right, so Agency 2 wants to know, what is the time frame to fix issues? So Agency 2 and I have had many conversations about. He works in the restaurant business, and he's trying to roll skills into smaller restaurants, bigger restaurants, chains, whatever, that he wants to be able to offer them one visible portal that allows people to have pickup orders, like, whether it's pickup or delivery or whatever, be able to talk to their devices and then be able to go pick things up. So I want to make sure I'm clear on this, Agency 2, because what you're calling an issue is really a feature request. It's not something that's broken today. It's just something that doesn't exist today. And feature requests are really tricky. Ryan and I feed into a program that we call Voice of the Skill Builder that is meant to provide the kinds of feedback that we receive from all of you, whether that's in Slack here, in office hours, wherever. And we try to collect and aggregate that into one central place that is then shared with the product team on a regular basis so that they can inform their roadmaps about the things that developers are asking for. Every single feature, just because someone comes and asks us for it, doesn't mean that thing is going to be done at some point in the future. They are working on a number of things. We announced a food ordering kit at Alexa Live last year that they are still putting the finishing touches on. And so as things get released, they will come to be, and it makes it very easy for us to start using them. But I want to make sure that I set really realistic expectations. Just because you have an awesome idea or a cool thing that you want Alexa to be able to do, whether on the code side or on the consumer side, doesn't mean that will necessarily align with the business decisions and all of the other teams that are involved here. We're talking about teams of 2,000, 3,000 people. And there are a lot of other demands and desires that get pulled in a number of other directions, including the people that folks like Stefania and her team work with, which are some of the, like the big enterprise kind of companies, whether they're big public companies like Starbucks or Domino's, or big banks or insurance companies, whatever, like the biggest kind of name brands are where she spends a lot of her time. And so there's demands being pulled in all sorts of directions. So I just want to make sure I'm really clear on that like, as much as you want a thing, whether that's you, Agency 2, or anyone, please understand that like there's a lot of demand on all the things that can be done, and we just don't have the resources to deliver all of it immediately. That was my soapbox on that one, I think. Okay. Okay. Gavin Watson says, I wish some of the other platforms we develop on had something like this. I think he's referring to office hours. So thank you for that, Gavin. I'm glad that we can provide some service to everybody. Steph says she likes seeing the three of us when she can, so I'm glad she's here. Let's see.
Dawn just said about voice flow. Yeah. Dawn at 922 from YouTube was just wondering about his Amazon Pay skills written with using voice flow. And then wondering if that had any bearing on certification. I actually know about voice flow. I love voice flow. Yeah, this is a great, just amazing service that is completely outside of Amazon's purview. Like, it's totally third party. It shouldn't have any effect whatsoever. All voice flow is a visual way to build a skill that is extremely good, and I honestly recommend it for everybody. I'm more of a visual thinker. I can't just sit down and write stuff down and type it out and like look at a brick of code and just understand it. I don't live in the matrix. Well, unless I do live in the matrix.
We're all in the matrix.
We could live in the matrix.
High probability.
This last Matrix movie, it really lodged in there that whole like you might live in the matrix thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I talk about the last Matrix movie.
I need to see it.
It is. It's actually.
You don't need to.
It's going to be a flame war. You do need to see it because it's good.
No, you don't.
Everybody thinks I don't care. Everybody thinks I liked it. So
it's like Zoolander 2. You don't need to watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to get lit up here in just a second. Anyway, voice flow shouldn't have any effect on your certification or anything like that, because what it does is it takes everything you've done and just ports it straight over to your developer console in the exact language it needs to be in. So with the exception of, like, I can imagine there'd probably be some small mistakes every once in a while with like APIs and stuff, but like other than that, I don't think that it would, I don't think it would ever really actually cause a problem. I think it would just be, it cuts and pastes basically. It copies and pastes over from one place to another. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. And yeah, I'm done.
All right. So Brian Tarbox just asked, what are your thoughts about teasing a new feature? I'm adding features that I'd like to be under ISP, but I want to show people that feature. I wonder if people use the free trial for this. Yes, that is exactly right. So the subscription ISP feature allows a free trial. I don't remember what the longest amount of trial is. It might be a month, but you can offer a free trial period. During that month, they sign up for, but don't get charged until the trial ends. And at the moment the trial ends, the charge happens, and then they've paid whatever the first iteration is, whether that's a year, a month, or whatever. So yes, I think that a subscription for a free trial is a smart way to go. That's probably the only way that you're going to give someone the opportunity to preview something, outside of just giving them, like, a good example is there was a simple example of a fax skill, right? And there were basic facts, and then there were like advanced facts. And so the experience of the skill was you got the basic facts all day. But then if people wanted access to the advanced facts, they had to pay to unlock that or whatever mechanism. So they could at least get a feel for how it worked and understand how things go. Another example that I've seen is a trivia game that I built a while ago where I had 20 different categories of questions. If you wanted a sports question, you had to own the category. So you would have to, if you say, give me a sports question, it'd be like, oh, you don't own that category. If you'd like to buy it, it's 99 cents. And that was a way for them to understand, like, hey, if you want to pick the category you're getting your question from, you're going to have to pay for that. But if you say, give me a random question, I would just randomly pick any question from any category and give you that one. So it was a way for them to potentially just play the game for fun, for free, anytime they wanted, but they were going to get questions across all of the categories. But if they wanted to, like, just do a sports quiz or something like that, they had to buy that category. So hopefully those are some brain sparking ideas for you, but there are certainly ways to tease features like that.
Is there a minimum on ISP for what you can charge for an object?
Yes, the least is 99 cents.
It's okay. All right.
And that's actually driven entirely by credit card processing fees more than anything else.
Yeah, sure.
Because of the way that the fees and everything else work out, because the split is it's now 80-20. So realistically, if a developer charges $1 for something, I think we actually lose like a penny or two on a 99-cent item. That's why it's 99 cents, because those fees don't shrink. And so if you're paying 32 cents for every transaction, every $1 transaction, then that's where the traditional like 70-30 split you saw in mobile apps and all sorts of things. That's where it came from, because they had to be able to cover the transaction fees. $1 is the cheapest. And depending on the type of product, the maximum can go as high as $1,000. But for consumables, I think the maximum is $10. And for the other two, I think it's $1,000.
I was thinking about making a charge like a 25 cent, like you could nickel and dime stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
no microtransactions, although I think that would be pretty cool. It's just too expensive. The only way to really do that would be to aggregate those things. And you see that with a lot of the app stores now. If you buy something, but then you buy a couple of other things that same day, they don't actually hit your credit card until and they'll aggregate all three of them and run them as one transaction.
Like a batch.
Yeah. So in that case, you could do microtransactions, but we don't offer that capability. But realistically, you could see how, like, okay, I made a 25-cent purchase and an 18-cent purchase and whatever. And then at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you spent $1.42. Now I'm going to run it.
Then batch it. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to add to Brian Brian Tarbach's question about teasing is like, that would be also a great use case for A/B testing, where you could deploy to a certain percent of your audience like this new teasing functionality and see if it catches on, see if it leads to more ISPs.
Right.
It's not exactly what you were asking, but I think it's a great use case for A/B testing, which was just recently launched, GA'd. So,
all right, let's see. I'm just reading here.
Yeah, it's an awesome chatter going on, which is great.
Yeah,
I'm
lots
trying
of
to find the next question.
Okay. Naveed says, I have an issue. My device, Alexa, and Alexa app accent are American, but Alexa in Amazon Music is British. How can I change the Amazon Music Alexa accent to American?
Change the voice. Wouldn't that just be immediate? Like it's not an automatic. Wait, hang on. Like 4 things just jumped into my head the moment I started speaking.
Right.
Where are they connected to? Which marketplace? To which locale? And then also, like, where are they located? Like, connected and located are not the same thing. But then also, could you not just change the voice of the skill to be always in one, the American voice, or wouldn't?
Got it. So maybe the answer will show up down below. I haven't seen anything from Naveed yet. But Naveed, if you can clarify, what kind of Amazon account do you have? Is it a US American based account? Where are you physically located with your device? Both of those things would help us better understand how to answer your question. But I'm not aware of a way where you can just go in and change a voice. So we need to figure out what could potentially be affecting that. Moving on, Gavin Watson has a question. I think I asked this a while back, but I can't remember the answer. Can I access skill stats, usage, all the analytics stuff that we have in the dashboard? Can that be accessed via an API to populate our own dashboard? The answer to this is yes. You can access a lot, if not all of the analytics that are found in the analytics dashboard using SMAPI, the skill management API. And so if you haven't played with that, if you haven't dug in, there's great documentation in our tech docs about that, but you will find that there are command line things for all sorts of stuff to be able to access what's going on inside your skills. So yeah, realistically, I don't know what the call limits are on that stuff. So I don't imagine you're going to be able to call it by the minute or by the second or anything like that. But if you're just calling to get stats like once a day or something like that, yeah, that should be pretty doable. Here's a fun one. And this is probably a Scott question. Brian Tarbox wants to know, I was going to add a feature to my sports skill, letting you say which teams you love and which teams you hate. Would putting functionality in my skill, using the word hate and encouraging you to voice your opinion on hating something, would that get me in any trouble with certification?
Wow.
I don't think that necessarily gets classified as like hate speech.
No, and you know, the thing is, it's like sports fans, man.
In my house, we teach our kids to use other words besides that word. Like, I hate green beans. Like, no, you don't prefer them.
Don't like,
or
right?
something
Yeah.
else.
Right.
Right. But sports fans do hate other teams.
Yeah,
they do. Yes, they do.
It's okay to hate the Red Sox. It's okay.
Right.
Agreed. You know, I can't. First of all, let me just point out, I can't approve anything. So,
sure.
Like if I say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and then they kick it back, that's but it shouldn't. I mean, considering that, so the certification team will go through literally every square inch of your skill. So if they find anything that's related to particularly bad subject matter, then they will kick it back. But just saying that you hate the New York Yankees is not. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't think so. I don't think it'll be a problem. I think that the overall user experience is something that they are going to try to tell you about, because they want kind of a unified experience when it comes to our users using all of the skills, no matter what. So being able to say hate in one spot but not in the other, That's a good question, but I would venture a guess and say probably not. I would say 70% sure that it would probably not be a problem because of the fact that it's sports related and everybody, nobody likes the Knicks. It's fine, but send it in anyway. If you get a kickback from certification, it's no big deal. It's fine. We'll fix it.
Right, and I honestly feel like that's not a thing that should even though you're using the word hate, I don't think that anything that you hate qualifies as hate speech. There's a very specific type of speech that is considered hate speech, and it's usually targeted at an orientation or a race or a group of people. But I'm with Scott. Nobody likes Red Sox fans ever.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I understand. Like the Raiders fans probably shouldn't be allowed to use your skill. I'm just saying.
They hate everyone.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Laldi Labs. Let me start with Alexis C on YouTube. Alexis asked, is there an official Chromecast skill planned? There's a lot to unpack in this question because does that mean you want Alexa skills to run on the Chromecast? Or does that mean that you want a skill where you can control your Chromecast?
Yeah.
In either case, this is my opportunity in each office hours to remind everybody that we don't talk about future roadmap. And so while I don't actually have any idea about this specific thing, even if I did have any knowledge, I wouldn't be able to share that with you. So unfortunately, I don't have any good information for you on that. The likelihood that Google would have Alexa running directly on Chromecast seems low. But
we have Fire TV.
Yeah.
I think that's the route.
But if you're thinking about being able to create a skill that can control your Chromecast, it almost seems like you could probably home roll one of your own if you really wanted something like that. But I'm not aware of anything. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I'm not aware of anything specific. Okay, Laldi Labs on Twitch says, I have a skill in development for a client who are considering publishing. It uses the profile API, geolocation. They're persisting first names for personalization, and they'd like ISPs as well. Would any of this be a blanket no from certification team in a kids category regarding privacy concerns, or would they help us work through it?
What was the first part?
They have a skill that uses the profile API, geolocation, they're persisting first names for personalization, and they are using ISPs. They want to know if anything about that would be a no from the certification team for a kid's skill.
No, not at all. As long as you've got everything done exactly right. And yes, they will absolutely tell you what you're doing wrong. But I mean, like the Disney skills and stuff have all of that stuff. So there's no reason why you would be rejected for that. Of course, it's a touchy subject because it's a policy case. So you're going to be you're going to have to fit right into their alignment with what they want for kid skills and stuff. But it shouldn't be wrong.
And that's a really good perspective to have on certification. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people view it as, okay, I'm done. I'm going to push the certification and I expect to pass. I don't know that is a reasonable expectation to have because there are so many nuanced things to consider as we go into every single unique skill. Mm-hmm. I think you should view it as, hey, they're going to help me work through all of these issues. And if they find something that's an issue, that doesn't mean you failed or that you suck or that you're a terrible developer or that your skill's awful. It just means like, hey, we have some rules. This doesn't feel like it's adhering to our rules, so let's help you figure out a way to get around that stuff. And they do offer guidance and feedback on like, hey, this is the thing that you're doing. We would recommend removing this or changing this to get around that policy. So it is definitely a partnership. And honestly, if your skill is passing on the first go, you're not trying hard enough.
Just to clarify, because I did actually get in trouble, we help people align with policy, not get around them.
Align with policy. As it came out of my mouth, I was like, that's not the thing I should.
That's not the right word. No. Align with policy. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
That's no problem.
Phelpsing.net on Twitch says, does Amazon still discount if the user is a Prime member? Yes, that is still true. So for those of you that may not be aware, if you sell ISPs in a skill, from time to time, and not always, it's not a guarantee, Amazon will take a product. Let's say you sell a product for 99 cents. They will offer it to Prime members for 20% off. You don't get to control that. you won't even know that it's necessarily happening because there's no information shared back to you about it, and you still receive the exact same amount of money you would have received. So on a 99-cent purchase, if you receive 70 cents on that 99 cents, you will still receive 70 cents from that purchase. That discount will entirely come out of Amazon's cut of that sharing of the 70-30 or 80-20 or whatever it is. So yes, those discounts do still exist, but you shouldn't in your skills suggest that it would or wouldn't happen because you don't get to control that, nor will you get the feedback that it did happen when it does. This is one of the prime reasons, prime no pun intended, this is one of the prime reasons why we recommend you do not talk about the prices of your products in your skill. Because if you say, hey, we have a cool pack of content for $2, and you hand it off to the Alexa in-skill purchasing engine, and it goes, hey, this product is normally $199 for Prime users. It's $1.49 or whatever ends up being. It can get confusing to the user. Well, what is the price? Why did they say it was at $2 when it's actually $1.40 or whatever? So just things to keep in mind as you're going through the ISP stuff is that you don't want to, you don't necessarily want to mention your prices. Amazon will handle that for you. Whew, okay, Oxygen Box. This weekend, Cool Beans, a Twitch stream that demos and reviews skills, demos a game skill that during the introduction stated it was still in beta. Just curious how that got through certification. It's a good, valid question, Oxygen Box. I don't know that you are prevented from saying that a skill is in a beta state.
You're not. You can say it. You just can't. You can't publish a beta skill. But I mean, I can make a podcast that says we're still in beta. Right. That's fine. But
I think it's a reasonable expectation to set with people, especially if you are still continuing to iterate and change and modify it in those first 6 months of what you're building. Now, if it's in beta for 5 years, that feels a little weird, but no one's going to call you on it.
This is the future of the tech industry. I'm sorry, everything's still in beta now. Like everything, all the video games that we get, all of everything that we get, it's all still in beta.
Like, well, also the other thing I was going to say is the author of it may have given the podcast beta test access. So before you publish a skill, you can go in and invite other people to have access to it. So that may have been what happened there as well. So it could have legitimately been in beta, not available in the store, but just available to a certain few people to review it. I know in Slack that request goes out all the time to say, can someone beta test my skills and give me feedback before I go through the certification process?
Yep.
So whether they did that or not, that is another tool that is available.
Yeah. But it sounds to me like what Oxygen Box is describing is that the content of the skill itself was saying it's in beta, not that there was some like pre-warning that was an Alexa generated message or something like that. But I think it's reasonable if you want to say your skill's in beta. I think that's not necessarily against the rules. Okay, let's see. Harry Hart on YouTube. Continue to have problems playing an MP3 file that contains both human voice and ultrasonic tones using the AWS CLI send announcement to an A for B device. As a public skill, the voice and tones play correctly, but on Alexa for Business, something is killing the ultrasonic part of our file. We've had a support case with AWS since December of last year. Any suggestions where things are breaking or with whom we might work to resolve the issue? If you have a support case with AWS, that's one thing. I don't know if you've opened a ticket with the Alexa side of the business. I feel like I saw this in Slack though, and so you may have. If you haven't, this is the place you would do that, alexa.design/contact us. But I feel like in general, you're saying that it's actually cutting your file. It's not throwing an error anymore. Because I remember earlier on, you were saying that it was not playing my audio file at all and it was failing. So I need a little more on this one. And I also don't have a ton of experience with Alexa for Business either.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there's any other weird specific requirements that sit there that I'm not aware of.
Alexa for Business isn't. It's just a developer program that we use to launch specific kinds of skill sets. It's really more for us than anything. Like we have, it's only available in the United States, and it's it's not really about. There's no like additional tech stuff that goes with an A for B account. It just kind of dictates what you can publish private skills and stuff like that, but it doesn't do anything like the APIs. There's no like specifically code related thing that I have no idea why it would do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harry. So it feels like working through the AWS side of things, because technically Alexa for Business is an AWS service, and opening a contact us request on the Alexa side should get you to the conversation or the people that you need. But that is way beyond my pay grade, I think, to figure out why this is happening. I usually have good instincts about why something might not work. That we do have a lot of rules around audio files.
It's weird it's working on one but not the other. Like that's the part that just isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like maybe like an NLU ticket would. I don't like who. There's no difference in the output is the thing. It's just like I don't. Weird.
It bugs me when I don't have a great answer for something.
Yeah, I know it sucks.
I don't have a great answer for that one.
Yep.
Luldy Labs Ryan wants to know if you could build an awesome Alexa response skill that says, "In my house, we teach our kids to use other words. Please try again." They enjoyed that statement from you.
Yeah.
Brian Tarbox also pointed out that they don't dislike Arsenal, the football club. We hate them with a burning fury. So,
well, see, and there you go. Arsenal, the problem with Arsenal is they're always trying to walk at it.
Right.
Ryan got it. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. What else do I have here?
There's a response that I like from King Strunker on Twitch, asking about the Chromecast, and they're mentioning that you can write your own Alexa skill. It runs off of hardware to like you can basically build your own type of setup in order to do this. And I think this calls out something that I'm really passionate about. And like I found out that like people don't know about this. Like you can build skills and never publish them, but use them on your own devices. And like that's not a comment. Like people don't know that all the time. And so I like to share that because like I've done a ton of those. Where like I have, for instance, I have a skill where I check on my chicken coop and I built my own IoT device to send messages back and forth. I'm never going to publish this thing. But like you can still like any skill that you author in the console, you can use on any of your devices if your accounts are linked together.
Yep. And so, that's actually, I built a skill for myself. We've talked about that controlled a light bulb. Realistically, I should be the only one that wants to control a light bulb. But as somebody that was streaming, I was like, oh, this would be fun. I'll publish it. And so I let people basically change the color of my light bulb by using that skill publicly. It was chaotic for a little while until they shut the skill down. But it was, the idea there is that you can build, Scott, the reason the skill was shut down is because the skill was my name. And so names are not allowed.
Yeah.
It was like, ask Jeff Blankenberg to change the light to green. And the light in my background would change to green. Anyway, a bit of news that I didn't realize. TradeLast just mentioned that ISPs and kids skills only allow subscriptions and one-time purchases, but not consumables. As a parent, that makes total sense.
Yep.
As my son asks me weekly for new V-Bucks in Fortnite, and I'm like, no, we're not buying more.
Yeah, that kid that bought thousands of dollars in furniture from Walmart.
Right.
All just showed up at his door one day. Yeah. That's why we do that.
W. Giorgio wants to know, can someone supply a template of how to import an APL doc into another APL doc? The documentation is lacking on how to fully implement this. We should take that as a note that is not in our docs. And then I'm wondering if APL Ninja has any good examples of this.
Yeah, I saw this asked on Slack, and I haven't had a chance to dive into it. I was optimistic that someone would reply and solve it quickly. I'm trying to think of where we have examples of that as well. APL Ninja was my first go-to.
Yeah, and it looks like TradeLast provided a link to the tech docs, to a tutorial. So it's the build a multimodal Alexa skill tutorial. And in module 4, step 2, hosting your own APL package, it looks like maybe. Well, we're not talking about bringing an APL doc into your skill. We're talking about bringing an APL doc into an APL doc, because they can nest to infinity, I think, if you really want to. All right. Well, let's dig into it, because we're gonna. I think we have a few minutes left. We're at the end of the list.
Not to infinity.
Benjamin Anderson wants to know, I have a skill that would retrieve data from a user's personal API URL. Users would enable the skill, but they would have to apply their own HTTPS URLs to set up the capabilities. Is this possible? Yes, but. Yes, but. It's possible, but you'd have to have some additional weirdness. You're not going to take a URL dictation, right? You're not going to open the skill and be like, here's my URL, and just tell you what the URL is. That's not going to work. Not reliably. So what you're probably going to need to do is tell them to go to a website and type in a code, like a one-time code that expires in 30 seconds or something, and then they could type their URL into that and save it, and then you would know who the person was, and you could do something like that. Account linking would solve this problem for you greatly, because then they could just set up a web account with a bunch of other profile information, one of which is their URL, and then they could link their accounts and be off and running. I mean, I can think of dozens of ways to potentially solve this, but I don't see a reason why you wouldn't be allowed to do this.
Well, it's personal information. It's,
Well, but ultimately, it comes down to I'm just providing a URL to the skill. We as the certification team don't actually know what's at the other end of that URL because it doesn't exist yet. What I do think you'd have to be cautious about is that there still needs to be some kind of experience for a user when they come into the skill and have not set anything up. And it might just be the how and what and why of what the skill is and why they would use it. But it's important to make sure that you are not just putting up a wall that says, I'm sorry, you don't have, go here first. I don't believe you're allowed to do that. I think you have to provide some kind of experience beyond enter your URL and go. So just keep that in mind, and I think you'll be okay. Okay, and then Brian Tarbock says, I love APL Ninja, but many of the projects, they're hard code their data in the document rather than getting the data from a data source. Interesting. I know we have
easy to, yeah, that's pretty easy to add a data source, and I mean it's work, but it's usually not that hard to do the data binding and kind of figure it out.
Right. And if you use the design tool that's on the developer console, it gives you a document that has all of those pieces set together. So we have a minute here. I'll do a little screen sharing. Nope, not slides. I want to share my screen. We're going to share this one. And we're going to go to developer.
Oh, the static is back.
I know. I have no idea why that happens. But it really bugs me.
You need a nicer machine.
That's hilarious. Okay, so I want multimodal responses.
My Mac is fine.
And so in here, let's take this image list, I guess. So one of the things that they give me here is if I look at my data source, well, did I pick a bad example?
Yes, and there it is, data.
Yeah, so this is my data, right? The actual data, and then I have my APL, which is all of this stuff, and then in here, it is looking for all of this data. This is a data source, though. I thought that there was a version here that showed me the whole thing. But
yeah, if you go up to the top APL. Oh, but it doesn't include notes to the left. On the left-hand nav, underneath the back button.
Right. This shows me.
Yeah.
And this shows me the data. But I thought there was one that showed the whole document together.
No.
And I could be wrong. But if you download this, I believe this does show me everything at once. Yeah. So in VS Code here, you can see that now these two things are merged. And so I have the document, and then I have my data source. And so as you pull these pieces together, and there's plenty of good examples of this in the tech docs, I'm sure, that show like how you insert a data source into this document. Because at the end of the day, you're really just creating a JSON doc. And so it should be as simple as just creating this, having a document node, having a data sources node, and then filling that stuff in. But there's no like forced rule or rhyme to how you format any of this stuff. I mean, the APL it does, but as far as the data sources go, you can really create this however you want, as long as you feed the appropriate values in reading this. And it treats the word payload as your data source. So this is the representation of this entire data source. So you can say, I go payload image list data, which is here, then background image, then sources, and then I want the first item in the array, which happens to be this, and then the URL. So that's grabbing this value here. So I don't know if we're actually answering your question, but if you're specifically asking about how do I manage data sources inside an APL doc, that's how I would do it anyway. Sorry, there we go. Should we do this? Maybe we should be like this more.
Oh, this is weird.
I know.
You can see my whole name now. It says advocate on there now.
Oh, nice.
And also you can see my window.
Yeah, you can see that I actually forgot to turn my lights on behind me today.
My background sucks. I'm gonna write a skill about it.
See, it's because you don't have a twerking bear. That's why.
Right.
It's true. That's exactly what I'm missing.
Ryan actually won that bear, I think, in a team offsite, didn't you?
I did. Well, I kind of begged the loudest for it, so I don't know if that's really winning.
You did.
There wasn't really a game. It's for the kids, to be clear.
So Scott, are you a viewer of the television program Doctor Who?
Yes, I am.
This has a very your wallpaper.
Whovian?
Not Whovian. What's the planet he's from though? That it's escaping my brain.
The Time Lords are from.
Is it Mandalore?
Oh my God, Jeff, go home.
I was joking, man.
You're gonna get us firebombed.
Gallifrey. It's
That's where the Cylons are from.
Thank you,
right?
Brian Tarbox. Thank you. I feel terrible now.
With the guy that has a bunch of Mandalorian and Yoda figures behind him certainly knows the right answer. But I could not remember Gallifrey. So that has a very Gallifreyan look to it, that wallpaper.
It does. That's kind of why we picked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, so that's why I picked it. I shared this with my partner as soon as it was on the wall. But yeah, no, this is the coolest wallpaper we could find. It was the same kind of wallpaper that they used in a place called the Cloud Club in Manhattan, which was apparently the swankiest place you could go in the 1920s.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's also very Whovian.
It is very Whovian.
Because I'm a Whovian myself. I actually was. Our front door needs to be replaced, so I'm thinking about making it be the TARDIS. And you've got me talking about geek stuff, so now you've opened a box.
We just nerded it up here.
Cannot close, and my dog is going to keep.
Can't believe I couldn't remember. Anyway, we are at time, so I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Always good conversations, always good barks.
Yeah.
And want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you guys all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
Thanks, guys.